I'm Alan Kasehagen. I started in 2009 when the facility was at Gutierrez Street. We moved here in 2016, starting in 2017. I'm currently the building manager, superintendent, whatever you want to call it. So if something breaks, they call me and I figure out how to fix it. I started in 2009 and my first was actually just a sale. And I was just amazed because it was at Warren Hall. There was no control of letting people in. There was no holding area at the time. And the dealers would come in and they'd grab books and they'd go find a corner and then they'd figure out what they wanted to buy. And then when they left them all stacked up. I went in the back and instead of having boxes stacked ready to take back, they were just thrown in a big pile in the middle. So I really kind of started off as a schlepper, basically. And I'd go down to the warehouse with Elizabeth and I'd pack boxes of books. And then slowly I started building things. And you saw from the list, I built some things as we needed them. And that's a lot of fun for me. I like building things, I like recycling materials. In my first setup, one of the things I realized early on is that as people were unpacking their boxes, nobody was taking them to the back. They were just sitting there. And so I said, well, that's a safety hazard. In my former life, I was designated a safety officer for the public health department, for better or for worse. And so I started going around just collecting boxes and tops and newspaper, taking them to the back. And then I started packing boxes on one side. And at the time, we had some fruit flats, but a lot of them were just cut down boxes or the little skinny boxes like you get water in. And they were just thrown a miss, so I stacked those up. And then another sale or two, I said, well, if I take the banker's boxes down in my pickup truck, we don't have, as they become empty, then we don't have to take them down. So I did that for a couple of years, and during the course of the sale, I'd do like 24 trips. And then we got down there and all of a sudden the warehouse was filled with banker's boxes. And I said, okay, mid-weekend, let's get a crew down here and let's get the banker's boxes up to the storage area. And the way we did that is we put a couple of tables together and we had Don Green, or me, Don's taller than I am, and we had short people up top because it was a very low ceiling, and we had a railing we could take off, and we passed boxes up that way. Same thing when we bought the flats and any other materials that we took to the sale that had to be stored upstairs. I said, okay, so we bring them back on a Monday as we had to get out. And I said, well, Thursday's a normal rough sort day. I know everybody's tired, but let's do the same thing. Let's get a crew together, some on the ground, some on tables, some upstairs, and just move this stuff up. It'll take us a couple of hours at most, and that's what it did. So that kind of evolved with the idea of getting things as they weren't needed back to the warehouse. I can't remember when, but after a while I started being the one driving the U-Haul trucks. And that was kind of interesting, backing in down there. We also started to make sure that somebody went to the trailer to take out donations, because as we know now, during the sale, donations come in. At that point, we had a small 4-foot by 4 by 6 foot trailer that to get the books in the back, you had to crawl in and pull them out. And so we would pull them out and put them in banker's boxes and just kind of set them aside to start rough sorting. When we moved here, we discovered that we had buku banker's boxes, more than we could bring. So after we brought everything here that we wanted to bring here, we had a crew in there of 3 or 4 of us, and we just broke down banker's boxes, and then we called cardboard and said, hey, we got some cardboard to recycle. And the day the guy came, it was just pouring rain. I mean, it was just drenching, but we got out of it. So then we got here, we had a committee put together to figure out how we're going to use this space. And they came up with the idea that we've got. We had I think about a $20,000 or $25,000 starting kitty. I don't know what the source of it was, but we were able to buy racks, buy tables, things like that. We put a crew together of about 10 people. I know Jim and Fran were involved in that, as well as Elizabeth, and we had 2 teams, and we just knocked them out and put them together. And then they got placed. We had the first container brought, and then we needed a second one, and then we needed a third one. And so Elizabeth and I, and I think Jim, maybe Fran, we built the 3 side door ramps among the things built. And then over time, things have just evolved, and my role has been now to kind of organize moving in and moving out, and make the arrangements to get the dumpster. Oh, prior to 2009, prior to about 2013 maybe, there used to be a crew that would come in at the end of the sale, like a second-hand book dealer, and they would come in great big gaylords on pallets, and they'd take care of all the books we didn't sell. We didn't have to deal with it. Well, they either went out of business or didn't want our business anymore. They weren't located in California. So we hired another company to do it, and what they did is they came in and cherry-picked the books they want, and then they posted on Craigslist, free books. And we stopped that, and after a limited crew, because there weren't as many volunteers, after we'd taken the stuff back to Gutierrez, we got a call from Peggy. She told us what happened, so we had to go back, because at that time we had to be out of the building by noontime. And we had to physically put them in dumpsters. And Peggy knew Cappy and got him with the small gray dumpsters at different doors. But we had to physically carry, because all our wheels have been taken back, and we didn't have as many carts. So everybody was just exhausted. So over time, we've become more sophisticated in loading stuff up, getting stuff ready. When we moved in here, Jim and I, and then Don Green, we built the shelving down by the volunteer room with the sole idea that that would be where we put sale material, so that we could catalog it, we could see it, we could organize it, and we just pull it off the shelf when we're ready to go. So that's it. And last year, I blew out my eye, so I couldn't be as much of a presence. But what it forced me to do was think through how I did what I did, and where things came from and where things had to go back. And I'm very grateful to Jim for taking over, kind of getting the U-Hauls and driving them. Leo helped. A lot of people pitched in to do and provide the direction that I couldn't. We also evolved so that mid-sale we do, it's now 4 runs of empty banker's boxes with a U-Haul back to the facility here to get them out of the way, because otherwise we run out of room and they'd have to be done at the end of the sale. So that's my story.
What do you think are next steps in this trajectory?
I would love, we don't have the space. If the Airstream wasn't out front, I'd put a 20-foot container there to store empty boxes and lids. Sold, that's it. Because what we're having to do, and Bruce is getting pretty good at it, is juggle where we put things. It starts off great after the sale. We got lots of room, and you go, oh, you got these 3 40-foot containers. How could they fill up? You watch. They fill up pretty quickly. I think we have enough stuff to take for the sale. One of the things I've noticed too, and this is just an observation, is that more category owners are using banker's boxes to lift the flats off the floor, which is fine. But what that means is it's almost to the point where it's another U-Haul load to bring back here on the day we move out. The one thing about move out is we have the whole day. And we get volunteers there, and I know they're anxious, but sometimes it seems like we're almost moving too quick. empty boxes are flying as they throw them in the dumpster. It's like I've talked to Bruce. I said, you got to tell them to slow down, and I don't think that's been enforced enough. We had some volunteers come from the Newcomers Club. That was very helpful. We had a little bit of a snag in that Mammoth's big moving van with the flats wasn't pulled off site the same day. And the same way with Marburg, I told the driver when they could come pick them up, but he never relayed that information to headquarters. So what I learned from that is, okay, we got to call and reaffirm dumpsters are ready for pickup, because we got a call from Earl Warren said, hey, about those dumpsters you got out front. Oops. So they're just little details that you try to remember that you've got to do to ensure things happen. I'm really convinced that being in the exhibition hall is a great benefit. The last 2 years we were there, the first year everybody said, well, we'll do well because it's coming out of COVID. We'd had the dealer sales and the parking lot sales here, but not the big sale. And it did great. But then last year it exceeded expectations. And I'm firmly convinced that the bigger venue is more encouraging to people. We also took about 600 more boxes of books. And so one of the concerns, and it's not a concern, but the reality is we've kind of reached our threshold of how many books we can take, because the last 10 days before we moved out, as the category owners were scrambling to get their wares ready, if you have it, we had boxes for the sale stacked on pallets outside with tarps on them and inside the warehouse. I mean, we exceeded the container capacity. And that's, I guess it's okay. I wouldn't want to see it go much more than that. And we just now are aware that, okay, that's going to happen. This is what we've got to do. I'm not a big fan of storing cardboard outside in any weather. I think for like a week or 10 days, it's okay as long as it's well tarped, because either sun or moisture's terrible on cardboard. We're making an effort to extend the life of the lids by taking the corners, even new lids, and that's just to kind of nibble away at it, but it works. Also becomes an opportunity to trim the leftover tape off of them, so you don't, when you pull one out of a box, you don't get the whole thing. I spent one entire setup early on in the back room cutting tape off of box lids, because people they cut one side and then they'd rip. And once again, you pick up one and you got a bunch of buddies with it.
Yeah.
So
I just have seen you do so many different projects just over the span of the year, and I know you've been doing construction projects and building and helping out. I mean, are there a couple of these projects that are memorable to you? Any that you'd like to share that come to mind, even recent or far back?
The bookcases I built, I forgot to put those on the list, jeez. The bookcases I built for specials came out pretty well.
Yeah.
They are where we'd headed before. We had taken like the white one behind you, not the doors one, but that one. We'd taken the one out of volunteer room. We'd taken the one by the rescue table. They're big and heavy and clumsy. And so my thought was build something that I know we can handle, I know what the quality is, and we use it only for the sale. And I think that worked out really well. They were fairly lightweight but strong. Came out really good. I don't know, I just enjoy fiddling with stuff. And this provides me an opportunity to do it.
We appreciate it.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say just before we close up
Oh,
here?
the other thing we did early on after that initial one where there was no door control at the beginning of the sale. I got together with Don Green and I said, okay, here's the deal. We open one door, we sell the tickets, we open one door, we give everybody a ticket, and we give everybody, and those that have cards. I'm going to physically stand there and tell them one at a time, and you have to give me your card and your tickets. And I said, we'll get 100 people in here in 5 minutes. Nobody's going to get a head start. And that was the complaint from the dealers. Is, oh, I don't want that guy to get ahead of me. And so they used to just charge. And I said, no, we've got to stop that. And it worked out really well. And, you know, people weren't offended. It's like, just go over here, single file, come in.
Nice.
That's my story.
Thank you.